Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be talking about how to write a narrative review. Everything that you need to know regarding writing a narrative review. And I hope at the end of this video, you'll be able to have a very good understanding to kickstart your own narrative review. And to make it a lot more easier, I would be using an example of a narrative review so that you will have an understanding of what it looks like, and at the same time you'll be able to write one. The very first thing that you have to know is that narrative review always and tend to stand as a means of educating people. So it serves educational purpose. You can use a narrative review to educate people about a particular topic. For instance, if you are writing a narrative review, you expect that anyone that picks up your narrative review should be able to have a good understanding on the topic that you have written a narrative review on. And the beautiful thing about narrative review is, of course, you can do it at your own pace, because what you just need to do is to work with the available literature in that particular topic that you're writing on. As with other types of review, you are still relying on existing evidence, existing paper, great literature, published papers, policy document, evidence that is already known in that particular area. So as someone that wants to start a work or that wants to start research in a particular area, I should be able to pick up your review and have a good understanding of that particular topic. So it's mostly educational. And you can also identify potential gap in a particular area. Though the major difference between narrative review and systematic review is that narrative review is not expected to be reproducible. That's why you will notice that if you read the method section of a systematic review, is always detailed in such a way that you are expected to do work that is reproducible. But in the case of narrative review, you are the leader, you are the one leading the direction of the discussion, you are the one doing the sentences based on what has been published, and you are free to select any kinds of paper. That's why narrative review is sometimes prone to selection bias. So, and as a researcher, you have to avoid that, to make sure that evidence that you're selecting in your narrative review is all encompassing to give us a good overview and a very good insight about the topic that you're writing on. But for systematic review, you will see that the method section is always detailed, and it is expected that if another person try to do that systematic review again, they should be able to get the same answer as what you have published. But for narrative review, reproducibility is not the most important thing. And another key thing that you have to put at the back of your mind is that traditionally, narrative review is actually written by experts, because they believe that it's experts that have a good understanding of the literature. So if you are a newbie and you are writing a narrative review, you have to be sure that you are familiar with the topic that you are writing on. And always, again, what actually make it easy for whenever I'm writing a narrative review is that I always put it at the back of my mind that this narrative review that I'm writing, is it going to provide a very good insight on the topic so that anyone that picks it up will be able to have a good understanding. And if possible, can I provide some form of recommendation based on the narrative review? As with any other types of review, what is also important when it comes to narrative review is that you are providing education. Please don't forget that. Now, I'll be using this practical example to do justice to what narrative review looks like and how you can write one. And I will also recommend that before you write a narrative review, please kindly go to the journal and see samples of narrative review that has been published previously. And that will provide a very good insight on the kind of structure, because there is no fixed structure for narrative review. It's always led by the researcher. But generally, we tend to have introduction, then we have, sometimes we have method, but some journal we ask you not to put method. You can move straight or directly to the body, then you can conclude, or you can give us recommendation before you conclude. So remember, narrative review is mostly educational, and you can also use it to give recommendation, and you can also use it to see whether there's any gap in knowledge and document it. But the major difference with systematic review is that you are not working towards reproducibility, because you are selecting paper based on what you think is going to give you good insight on the review that you are writing on. Now, let's start with this example that I have here, so that will make it a lot more easier for you to follow. If you look at this title, you will see that it is clear. And of course, Though we have a lot of things that we want to talk about here, but it is still clear that the main idea, the central idea of this work is to assess the strategy, or to give someone or people that want to read this work or this paper, to give them an overview of risk communication and community engagement strategies for COVID in 13 African countries. So whenever you want to come up with a topic for narrative review, be sure that it is giving education in a way that it is unique. Of course, maybe people have not done that before, to give a comprehensive or good education on a particular topic. Because if you are writing a narrative review, sometimes it is possible that you're going to miss the road. And one of the reasons is that because you yourself that you're writing, you're not clear with what you're looking for in the literature. And with the title here, you can easily see that our focus is to write about risk communication and community engagement strategies for COVID in 13 African countries. It is clear to anyone that if I read this paper, I should be able to have a good understanding of the risk communication and community engagement strategy for COVID in 13 African countries. Always remember this: whenever you are writing a narrative review, try as much as possible to make sure that it's educational, it's insightful, and of course, it's unique. For us to think about, why are you writing it? Is it adding anything to knowledge? Are you trying to bring something unique, something insightful on board? So you have to think carefully on the purpose. In most cases, what motivates me most of the time to write narrative review is to be able to give educational write-up on unique area. Think carefully whenever you are coming up with a topic for your narrative review. It has to be clear, so that from the title, anyone that reads it will be able to have a good understanding on what exactly you want to write about. Importantly, before you finalize that you want to write a narrative review, please try to go into the literature. You can go to Google Scholar and type the keywords there and try to see whether we have anything on that, and see how you can improve on what we know already. Because narrative review is mainly, the main reason is to provide education to people on a particular topic that you are writing on. If the narrative review that has been published previously actually maybe is old, or you think you want to come from another direction, or maybe you think people have been publishing papers quite a lot in a particular area, and you don't have anyone that has done a quick educational write-up in form of a review, maybe because you don't have the resources to write a systematic review, you just want to give a concise and interesting overview that will be useful to scientists or readers to understand a particular field or a particular topic better, then you can consider to write in a narrative review on it. Remember, a narrative review should be educational, should be able to make it easy for us to see potential gaps, to advance our knowledge basically, and of course, you can also use it to provide a recommendation based on the evidence that is presently available on the topic that you are writing on. Now, another interesting part of a narrative review is to give us an introduction. An introduction mainly contains what is known, what is unknown, and what exactly is the aim of your narrative review. You can see here that we started with a broad overview of what COVID is all about, and we move down to talk about RCC briefly, and of course, to give an overview on what we know about that particular area. Then, if you look at the last sentence here, you can see that we actually talk about what is the exact aim of this narrative review: to catalog the RCCE strategies as well as the challenges facing RCCE in the 13 African countries. As simple as ABC. It is educational, so that anybody that picks up this article will be able to have an understanding of RCCE strategies as well as the challenges facing RCCE in the 13 African countries. Simple. And remember, introduction basically is to introduce, to tell us what is known, what is unknown, and what exactly you want to do, which is in the last paragraph here. What exactly do I want to do? Do I want to achieve with this narrative review? Which education am I providing to the reader? And like I said earlier, for the material and method, in most cases, you don't want to include materials and method. Even in fact, some journals will ask you to remove it. While some journals will ask you to just give us an overview. And you can see again, just to talk about briefly, this is not reproducible because it's just to give an overview to the reader that this is what we how this is how we get the papers that we review. Okay, we review PubMed, we review Google Scholar, just give an overview to get papers. We review other documents as well, and you can see we mentioned the search term briefly. So this is not reproducible. And if you compare this method session exactly with what you are going to have in a systematic review, you see that a systematic review is more detailed than this, because the aim of a systematic review is to be reproducible. But the aim of narrative review is to provide education on the topic that you're writing on. But you still want to give, sometimes some journal will ask you to give us an overview, a rough sketch, maybe in one paragraph or in two or three paragraphs, just to talk about how you search for the paper, what kind of database do you search, and how did you what are the inclusion and exclusion criteria, just briefly. But it's not compulsory. Some journals will even ask you to remove the method section. And like I said, always remember that a narrative review is actually led by you. You are the one doing the synthesis, so that anyone that picks up your review will be able to have a very good understanding of what you are writing on. And you can see with what we have here, for us to make it easy for readers to understand that particular topic, what we did is to come up with outlines, and that's what they call the body. So you can come up with an outline that will make it easy for people to follow what you're writing. You can see the first outline here to talk about COVID-19 risk communication and community engagement strategies in Africa broadly, and to summarize it broadly. Then, of course, we move to each of the countries to talk about, okay, Algeria, this is what happened in Algeria regarding RCC, regarding strategy. We move to Angola, we move to Cote d'Ivoire. We are focused on 13 African countries. Then we move to cover all the countries that we want to include. You can see that it's mostly educational, to provide education to people. So I should pick up your narrative review and be able to improve my knowledge. So you can see, you can see. So we come up with this structure that, oh, okay, we first talk about the RCC strategy in these 13 African countries. And the best way to do that is to structure it by country. An outline that people can easily follow to understand what you have written. So in your own case, it might be that you want to structure it in a particular way, so that people will be able to understand step by step what you have done, be able to have a good understanding to improve their knowledge on that particular topic. Remember, the aim is also to talk about the challenges. This is another heading. Talk about what are the challenges. And again, based on the literature, you see that all this evidence actually comes from papers. You can see citation, you can see the references, you can see the references, you can see the references, you can see the references here, you can see another reference. So it's basically to provide the education. Now we have another heading to fulfill the aim. That's why I said be clear on the aim of your narrative review. It's very, very important, because that's what will guide the direction of what you're writing and the kind of paper that you want to select that will be useful to your review. Another heading here is challenges. So now it's easy for us to start looking for paper that talk about challenges regarding risk communication, and we actually group it into distrust in government, weak healthcare systems, widespread rumors and misinformation, exclusion of some vulnerable groups, resistance, and you can see we have the conclusion and recommendation. It's actually led by you. It's led by you. So anyone that picks this up will be able to have a good understanding of what are the challenges facing RCC based on the evidence that we have in the literature. You can see we cited paper, we cited papers, we cited papers to be able to talk about these challenges. So narrative review is actually led by the researcher, but you're using existing literature to guide how you structure the write-up, so that if anybody picks up your narrative review, they'll be able to have a good understanding on the topic. I hope this video is able to give you a good understanding and overview of what a narrative review looks like. And it will be a lot more easier for you to also read other narrative review that has been published, so that you can see how it is structured and you're able to have a very good understanding of on how you can write your own. There are many topics that we still need someone to write a narrative review on. Always look for unique topics to write a narrative review on, and always read or check out journals, check out read papers in that journal where you want to submit to, so you can see the structure and how they want you to write one. It is very, very important. Thank you very much for watching, and bye.